Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank, where I climb the online series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. In the previous episode, we featured one of the most interesting anti-meta teams that I've featured on the channel in this format. This team placed 5th in the previous rank season, and there's a rental, paste, and a team report in Japanese all included down in the description below. And if you haven't seen the last episode, I broke down like the basics of the team in the very beginning, so I'll link that in the description below as well. So yeah, looking forward to just playing a couple more games with this team. It's just so wild, so different from anything that I've really used, you know, in Series 12. And I think that this whole Solgaleo duo is honestly really legit because it makes Zacian's life really, really difficult. So yeah, thanks so much as always for watching Road to Rank. If you enjoyed, please share your support by leaving a like in the video. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, inspired by us using Eldegoss, I want to know what's one support Pokemon that you think deserves a buff. For me, I'm thinking of some of the other like electric type rodent like Pokemon, mainly because like obviously Raichu has been super strong, and then you know Pachirisu obviously won Worlds in 2014, but there are a couple of others that I think maybe could deserve a little bit more, like more Pico. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and let's get started. Our first game of the day, and we're up against a Kyurem and Zacian team with Amoonguss, Ditto, Indeedee, and Grimmsnarl. I feel like I normally expect to see things like Gothitelle and Sableye with this kind of composition, but Kyurem and Zacian is definitely interesting because Eldegoss kind of gets wrecked by the Kyurem. I think Solgaleo is incredibly good here because, oh, I guess I don't have Max Quake, so I can't actually hit the Zacian for super effective damage. But with the Solvest, we can take attacks from Kyurem pretty easily. We've got Max Mindstorm into Amoonguss as well. So I think we definitely center our game around Solgaleo here. Ho-Oh's still decent, but I have to worry about like Kyurem just one-shotting us. Bringing Mamoswine is actually interesting here, especially because it has Focus Sash, right? So I can retaliate back and just get a Earthquake off, maybe into Zacian. I think I'm okay with the Solgaleo lead. Scarf Urshifu immediately for Surging Strikes is also pretty interesting here, but we could also use it to clean up the battle. Honestly, I'm kind of down for Urshifu and Solgaleo here with Ho-Oh and Mamoswine in the back. I guess the thing is Eldegoss can be interesting here with its ability, but I think it gets one-shot too easily. You can make an argument for it, for sure. I don't think it's like... I don't think it's completely useless in this matchup. But I don't feel comfortable enough with it here. Especially because like Zacian's fast enough, like even with Cotton down, if you just have a good amount of speed investment, you still outpace me. Okay, they go with Grim and the Kyurem. I'm honestly intrigued by the idea of just close combat Dynamax Steel Spike here into the Kyurem, honestly. Okay, let's go for it. A lot of Kyurems don't even carry Protect these days. So if you're not running Protect here, you'd have to Max Guard to really get out of the turn positive. Although I guess like Grimmsnarl here could like scary face the Urshifu slot. But then I get a Steel Spike off and I think that's decently valuable. So we're going to trade Dynamaxes here. I guess Urshifu switching out into Mamoswine would have been an okay play. But the thing is, I brought Mamoswine mainly to deal with Zacian in the late game, right? Because I can survive an attack and then just Earthquake. Both Mamo and Ho-Oh are good here. What's interesting is obviously the team we're using is super anti-Zacian, so that's why I'm like trying to knock out Kyurem early on in this game, right? Because if we KO Kyurem early, then basically Zacian is going to have to face against a Solgaleo, a Ho-Oh, and a Mamoswine, and none of those are really great for it. My opponent's team index is really heavily on sweeping with Kyurem and Zacian, right? Like the rest is super support oriented, although Ditto can obviously copy my Solgaleo, so that's one thing to watch out for. Ah, they actually have Fake Out. Okay. And they go for Wormwind. I guess that's an okay trade, though, because Steel Spike here should do over 50% to Kyurem. So I actually don't think it's that bad of a turn. Fake Out, not super surprising. They actually are Life Orb as well. Interesting. I guess this is where Eldegoss actually would have been valuable, right? If I had Eldegoss, I would have been able to just switch it in, maybe. Drop their speeds, and then Solgaleo would be in a really, really sick position. But I honestly think it's an okay state here still. So what's interesting is this next turn, you think Kyurem really wants to protect, right? I'm down to bring out Ho-Oh because I don't want Mamoswine to lose its Focus Sash quite yet. You could pretty easily protect Kyurem. Ho-Oh can go for Disruption. See, the thing is, I think Kyurem protecting here is fairly obvious, but I'm still intrigued by the idea of steel spiking. I also think there's a decent chance this is Focus Sash Grim, given the fake out, but can't confirm that yet. Yeah, I mean, Steel Spike and Protect here is the fairly safe play, but I think if they get greedy and attack with Kyurem, we can just win the game off this. And Ho-Oh's protecting first, so that should imply Kyurem's attacking here. Nice. Yeah, I figured it'd be Fake Tears with Fake Out here. And they just try to go all in on KOing Ho-Oh. So when you see Fake Out Grimmsnarl, by the way, like I was mentioning how I was expecting it to be Focus Sash, right? Like Fake Out Focus Sash, then you can run like Fake Tears, you can run Scary Face, for example, and these Grimmsnarls like don't use Light Clay / dual screens nearly as much when you have Fake Out on the set, and part of the reason for that is because if you're running Fake Out on Grimm, you probably want some speed investment on it to make sure you can outspeed a lot of the other Fake Out users in the format, and so if you're running speed, then you're often giving up like defensive EV investment, and you know, these kind of Grimmsnarls are often paired with Pokemon like Kyurem or Dialga, and the idea is to really just use it to fully enable your restricted. But the thing is, now we should be in incredible shape, right? The thing is, like, they probably have Ditto here. Okay, I say that, but then Zacian just comes out, which makes me think they just don't have Ditto, which I'll take. Now we have a defense boost as well. Because I feel like if you had Ditto, you should just bring it out there. But maybe they'll want to bring Ditto and copy Solgaleo. I mean, what does Grimmsnarl do here, right? Like, the question is, do I need to respect Zacian protecting here? Because I still expect Focus Sash on Grimm, but the thing is, like, Grimm being out on the field right now doesn't actually really help my opponent. Now, my one fear is that they hard switch Grimm out into Ditto this turn. Go for another Steel Spike. Okay, I'm down to actually just Steel Spike and Brave Bird into the Grimm here because I still want to cover for Ditto coming in. Oh, they just end up forfeiting. Okay. I think this game highlights the value of Solgaleo. Solgaleo was just incredible into my opponent's restricted duo. And this team is a very anti-Zacian team, right? So my opponent just probably felt like they couldn't do very much with Zacian anymore at that point in the game. And they essentially just try to go all in on KOing the Ho-Oh there. Like, your other play would be to max guard Kyurem, and then target the Grimmsnarl. Use Grimmsnarl to target my my Solgaleo slot if you have foul play. Oh, they didn't even have Protect on this. Ironhead play Rough Sacred Sword Imprison. Very interesting. Life Orb, and yeah, Kyurem here didn't have Protect, so that explains the lack of the Protect there. Like, they essentially couldn't have done anything that turn other than maybe max Quaking, right? But Solgaleo just, like, 1v4s this team, honestly. Yache Berry Amoonguss, which is pretty interesting. This is mainly used to kind of counteract Calyrex Ice Rider, because otherwise Calyrex is obviously a huge pain for Amoonguss. Choice Scarf Ditto. Yep. Sash Grimmsnarl, as I mentioned. Yep, it was Fake Out. This one, they did have Foul Play, but Fake Tears and Thunder Wave here. And then Psychic Seed Indeedee. So the thing with a team like this is it just relies so heavily on Dynamaxing Kyurem. Like, you're almost always maxing Kyurem, right? Because, like, if you look at this team, there's no other offense, really, outside of Ditto maybe copying something, and then Zacian, obviously. So the reality is that this team is actually incredibly Solgaleo weak. But you're not going to be able to cover for every restricted Pokemon in this format, right? And so some players in the team building process are like, you know what? Solgaleo's not that common of a Pokemon. If I run into it, I'm gonna have a tough time. But you know, you can't win against everything in this format. But it wasn't just Solgaleo; it was Ho-Oh as well, right? Because Ho-Oh made the Zacian's life really difficult. So that's why I focused so heavily on getting damage on Kyurem in the early game, because I knew if Kyurem fainted, then Ho-Oh Solgaleo would just like make Zacian's life really difficult. Grimm, Indeedee don't really provide too much here. Although Foul Play from Grimm's actually sizable damage, but they didn't. Yeah, interesting EV spread actually. Max speed, max special defense here. And then I think, yeah, Scarf Ditto, if they had brought that out over Zacian and copied Ho-Oh, things would be interesting. But the thing is that, like, we had a defense boost, and we could just rockfall them pretty easily. And then, like, yeah, there's not much Ditto could actually do other than maybe fish for a burn, and then Ho-Oh should win that endgame for us. So, yeah. This I think, just highlights the strength of Solgaleo plus Ho-Oh. So, let's look for another. Next game here, rank 34, and they have a Ho-Oh and Dialga with the Tyranitar. That is so cool. I love, like, when you play late in the format and you just have these, like, really interesting battles between, like, really obscure restricted duos. Like, the Ho-Oh Dialga duel actually does something similar, right? Where you're almost always maxing the steel-restricted Pokemon, and it's meant to be a very anti-Zacian kind of combination. Now, the thing is that Solgaleo has a pretty favorable matchup into this team. The one thing it'll maybe want to watch out for is just Ho-Oh burning it with the Sacred Fire. Mamoswine's really interesting here. All of our Pokemon are pretty solid. The main thing is, like, I think Urshifu can be good, but it's hard to pivot properly. However, one of the interesting things about Urshifu is being able to go for Rock Tomb onto Ho-Oh into, like, Max Rockfall. Oh, actually, we don't have a Max Quake on Solgaleo, so that means our Dialga matchup is actually a lot worse than I'd initially stated. That's not great. This could be a Max Mamoswine game. Okay, Grim, Solg, Ho-Oh, Mamo, I think is what I'm going to go with here. It feels weird to drop both Eldegoss and Urshifu. Like, I think if Gastrodon isn't on their team, I'm definitely bringing Urshifu. But the thing is, like, I think Dialga is their clear Dynamax option, right? The thing about Dialga in Series 12 is that it is incredibly powerful in Dynamax and a lot weaker outside of Dynamax. And when you look at Dialga and Ho-Oh, well, Dialga fares a lot better in Dynamax than outside of Dynamax. Ho-Oh can be decent either in or out of Dynamax. It's actually going to be Incineroar and Gastrodon. Okay, so this is a pretty passive lead. Normally the goal with this lead is to just spread Yawn and just disrupt me from the early game. Now, one way I can get around Yawn is by clicking Max Lightning with the Incineroar. But the thing is, sorry, not with the Incineroar, with the Solgaleo. The main question is whether or not that's even worth it, right? What's interesting is if you have this duel, then it implies, what, just Dialga and Ho-Oh in the back? Man, Eldegoss would have been sick here. Okay, I'm going to switch on into Ho-Oh here. I expect to eat Yawn on turn 1, and I'm actually down to just Stone Edge into Incineroar. I don't want to Dynamax on turn 1 because, like, what's funny is, yes, like, oh, instant switches. I wonder if Ho-Oh ever comes in here. I was going to say, like, if Ho-Oh came in to eat up a, like, ground type attack and we Stone Edge it, that would have been so sick, but not the case here. Dialga's also scary because it does get access to rock type attacks. This is an interesting matchup where it's like us not having one single move on Solgaleo actually hurts me so much. If I have a ground type attack, this is actually a much more doable matchup because I can boost my special defense, and that's really valuable into Dialga, right? But now this is where things get interesting. I think it was a great Gastrodon lead from my opponent. And I really don't want to set up Psychic Terrain here. Or sorry, Electric Terrain. Ugh, this is already like a really weird spot to be in. I'd Yawn into the Ho-Oh slot now. Or you can Yawn into Solgaleo expecting to switch on, then just max move Ho-Oh here. So I guess I'm down to protect Ho-Oh, scout out for what they want to go for, and then switch out into Grim. So here's the interesting thing, right? Because by switching out into Grim, even if I eat Yawn, if I get the lagging tail into Dialga, I actually don't think it's that bad for us. Because then it actually opens the door for maxing Mamoswine potentially. But Gastro switches, okay. Into Incin, yeah, that makes sense. You're really, really mixing Max Quake on Solgaleo right now, but that's okay. Unless they read this and like went for Steel Spike onto Grim. Oh, they didn't even max Dialga. I think that's a great play. Okay, they go for Trick Room. I guess that's okay. Actually, I mean, the team we're using here doesn't fare super well against Trick Room-oriented compositions. Now you can just fake out the Grimmsnarl and Steel Spike it. The question is whether or not I want to read into that, right? Because I could actually just Sacred Fire Dialga and then just switch back out into Solgaleo, and I think I'm going to go for it. I feel like if Dialga has Trick Room, the odds of it having a Rock type attack here are more slim. You could be running, I don't know, a Rock type attack, Wormwind, and Steel Spike, and then Trick Room. But basically, like, I want to conserve Grim because I really want to get the Trick onto the Dialga. They played this early game very nicely, though. Very, very nicely. Really cool team as well. Even if I had Quake on Solgaleo, this early game wouldn't have really played out that differently, because I don't think I would have gone for it, given the imminent threat of Gastrodon. But the turn 1 switch was very nice. I guess if I had Quake, though, I could have Quaked into Ints and then Max Lightning turn 2, I suppose. They actually just go for parting shots, so no Fake out there. Okay. I mean, that's fine. It depends on what Dialga goes for. I would expect the Steel Spike still into the Grim, but it's a little bit frustrating because it means I could have actually gotten Trick off. I think this game has highlighted the strength of Gastrodon for my opponent because they're doing a really good job cycling it in and out, and just like even a single Yawn makes me play in a completely different manner, right? So right now the advantage for us is that my opponent's Dynamaxed first, so I can at least leverage that. They do indeed go for Steel Spike, so that's good at least. Solgaleo will take that like good. I was going to say good champ. Maybe wasn't as great as I would have liked it, but we'll take it. It's just like beating this Gastrodon right now is difficult, which is kind of painful. Sacred Fire is not going to do much thanks to the defense boost. I feel like our burn rate with this Ho-Oh is just 0%. So you have a defense boost now. I can obviously protect Ho-Oh. You can Yawn into this slot. I want to switch... Ideally, I want to switch Solgaleo back out into Grim, but they might Steel Spike and Yawn me. I think I'm going to protect here and switch out into Grim, but it's a fairly easy read for them to just Steel Spike and like Earth Power that slot. That's actually what I would do if I were my opponent's Shields, because it covers for everything. I guess you don't know the Solgaleo item necessarily though, so you might be worried about it protecting. Yeah, they go for Yawn, that's fine. I'm mainly curious what Dialga's doing here, because if we can stall out my opponent's Dynamax, this is still pretty doable. Nicely done. Oh, but they Steel Spike into Ho-Oh. Okay, that's huge. That's huge. Nice. This keeps us in it then. This is basically like what you have to do when you're playing against Dialga, by the way. You just have to keep making switches and like hope that your opponent ends up like not reading into it, which can be really scary. Dialga's a really interesting Pokemon in this format. These defense boosts are not doing me any favors either. Like, they're going to be at +3 defense when it's all said and done. Yawn into Ho-Oh now, again. Yawn is just making this a nightmare. Like, I guess I needed Eldegoss just to beat Gastrodon. Eldegoss would have actually been pretty solid in this matchup. Okay, I'm going to switch out into Solg. And I'm actually going to stay in here and just trick the Dialga. The thing is with these defense boosts, like, I don't have Max Quake on Solgaleo, so I have no way of dealing damage into Dialga. This is now where not having Max Quake hurts a lot, because if we had Max Quake, this endgame would be pretty sweet for us, I think. There's Advent Orb. Yep, there's Yawn onto Solg. And then probably Steel Spike into Grim. I was always wondering, like, did they ever get a little bit impatient there? And I don't know, like, Wormwind the Ho-Oh slot, expecting Grim to switch out into the Solgaleo slot. We get crit there, but it doesn't matter. I think this game is also highlighting just one of the slight downsides of relying on 2 physical restricteds. My options just feel so limited. Okay, this is still definitely winnable, though, so I don't want to give up. It's just like... I'm staring down a +3 defense Gastrodon with 3 physical attackers, right? Now, Eldegoss would have been the clear Pokemon to bring given what my opponent had, but there's so many things Eldegoss has to worry about in this matchup, like Ho-Oh, obviously. Dialga often carries Hailstorm as well. Last turn of Trick Room. Do I ever just say, you know what, I'm just going to Dynamax Solgaleo right now and Max Lightning? The play I want to make is to switch out into Ho-Oh here and just protect Mamoswine. It's like, I'm making so many switches, but I'm not even getting anywhere with it because my opponent's defense is so good and their offense is so good. Like, basically, if I brought Eldegoss in this game, I could have used it to pressure with Sleep Powder, right? And that would have been super good into Dialga. Obviously, Leaf Storm pressure in Eldegoss, or into Gastrodon would have been really good. Like, if this were a best of 3, I would definitely just be bringing Eldegoss in game 2. Yep, they do correctly Yawn into Ho-Oh. Flash Cannon. Like, I just can't break through this cycle of Yawn because I have no, like, way to KO Gastrodon easily, and that's what makes this so frustrating. It's so easy to read me switching back out into Solgaleo. It's like, I can't even, what do I do? Like, I need a KO Dialga, no? Dialga could just switch out here into Ho-Oh as well. I'm just gonna Max Quake it here. Like, I have no way to do damage right now. Yeah. I think them identifying Incineroar Gastrodon's lead was really, really smart. And one way I could punish that is leading Eldegoss plus Solgaleo. Like, helping hand Rockfall immediately, KO Incin turn 1, you bring out Dialga. I could then Max Lightning, set up Electric Terrain to prevent Yawn. But, like, I don't know, our Dialga matchup here is just not very ideal. The thing is, they're at +3 defense, so I don't think Max Quake's even going to KO Dialga, and they can just Yawn into the Mamoswine slot now and just Trick Room. What I'm hoping for is they end up yawning into the Ho-Oh switch out, but, like, I don't know. I just don't really see a way in which we beat Gastrodon while knocking out everything around it. We'll start off with the Max Quake, though. Let's see how far this gets us. Yeah, these defense boosts are just way too much. Incineroar lead maybe could have been valuable. Or sorry, not Incineroar. Mamoswine lead could have been valuable into this team comp as well. Yeah, Yawn and Trick Room. Like, it's just my Solgaleo can't even hit the Dialga. And, like, Ho can Sacred Fire it. That's it. Yeah, if I were to replay this, I actually think leading Mamoswine would have been very powerful. But we're going up against a really, like, unexpected team comp. And they had Trick Room on Dialga. Like, a lot of Dialgas often are, you know, the more defensive-oriented, sorry, offense-oriented sets. Yeah, I'm just going to Psyche Fangs Gastrodon Quake here, but I think this game is over, truthfully. I wonder if Dialga ever switches into Ho-Oh here. Basically, like, if I want to win this game, I need to KO everything around Gastrodon and force it to be a 2v1 against Gastrodon. But right now, I can't even do that because Dialga's at +3 defense. Okay, they stay in. We actually outspeed... Oh, no, yeah, of course we outspeed Dialga. They have Lacking Tail. I mean, now I fall asleep with the Mamoswine. But here's what's interesting, right? Like, let's say you bring out Ho-Oh immediately. Well, I've revealed Stone Edge already, so I suppose, like, are you ever going to risk, you know, me being able to just Stone Edge you for free? Probably not. Because the reality is, if I actually get a one-hit KO onto Ho-Oh, I can still win this game for sure. Yeah, I guess it also depends on whether or not Gastrodon has, like, leftovers. Not leftovers, sorry, it obviously just real that, recover. We haven't seen it go for any offense, it's just Yawn, 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 Yawn. But if I wanted to beat the Yawn, I had an answer in Eldegoss, and that was my mistake in not bringing it, right? Okay, Instinct comes out. Okay, let's assume Ho is my opponent's last Pokemon. Let's assume it's faster than Solgaleo. Now you can Earth Power, Flare Blitz, double up onto Solg, or Flare Blitz and read into Ho switching in. This is still doable. I'm not going to give up yet. Like, now that we've picked up a knockout, and we have a way to actually get a one-hit knockout onto their Ho-Oh, I'm not going to give up. Especially because my Ho-Oh has Recover, so I can actually heal up against Gastrodon, right? And, like, one thing we can do in the long run is, like, Fish for Sacred Fire burns. That stops the leftovers recovery, and then just slowly chip away at it with attacks. So even though it looks pretty dire, I don't want to give up yet. Yep, there's another Yawn. I don't really have any way around this, though. Jeez, Flare Blitz does so much there. Actually, with how much Flare Blitz does there, I don't think I can do anything now. Oh, well, not necessarily. I guess I can protect Mamoswine Brave Bird into Incin, right? But I would need to wake up with Mamo. I think if Mamo stays asleep here, I just lose. The thing is, I think I'm willing to stay in and just Brave Bird here. And EQ. Last turn I could have stayed in with Solgaleo because they Flare Blitzed the Mammal slot and just gone for Stone Edge onto Incineroar. But then the Solgaleo would also fall asleep, right? But because I didn't bring Eldegoss, I essentially have to accept that I need maybe a lucky wake up or two here. Okay. Maybe I should have tried to protect with Mamoswine there. So Ho-Oh falls asleep now, but I get the free switching into Solgaleo. Yeah. Like, at least we're getting knockouts now, but I still am like, how do I beat this leftovers Gastrodon, right? The answer is Ho-Oh waking up, but I have to take a turn of sleep right now. So bring Solgaleo back out. I think I had to max Mammal in this game, but yeah, I think the solution is maybe leading Mamoswine. Like, Eldegoss Mamoswine would be a really interesting lead against their Insane Gastrodon combination. I don't think Urshifu contributes anything to that. And Grimm is just so passive, which is kind of what punished me here. Okay, Ho-Oh is the last one. They know I have Stone Edge, so obviously you should be aware of that right now. There's one more turn of Trick Room, which is what's interesting. So, like, their obvious play is to just protect Ho-Oh and Earth Power into Soul. I guess, like, if they're, like, super slow Ho-Oh, Solgaleo can actually outspeed it. But I don't think I really ever come out of this turn positive. But I might as well just Stone Edge into Ho-Oh, right? Because, like, the way I could win this is if they just give me the free knockout onto Ho-Oh. But, yeah, they protect. They could miss Sacred Fire, or we could actually be faster with Solgaleo. Both of those are win cons right now. Earth Power here with AV. Yeah, we survive. Oh, it takes a turn of sleep. There's Stone Edge. I feel like you only go for that play if you're 100% confident on Ho-Oh outspeeding Solgaleo here this next turn, right? It's got a Brave Bird. I don't have Protect here, so we just go for Stone Edge. You could also miss Sacred Fire with Ho-Oh, but they are going to connect. Yeah, like them being slower under Trick Room with Gastrodon, but then outspeeding me with Ho-Oh here made this dynamic so awkward. And I stay asleep too. Yeah, we weren't going to win this game if we didn't get some quick wake-ups. So it was Earth Power Ice Beam. Okay. Yeah, the fact that they had a Ho-Oh that outsped both of my Pokemon was pretty bad. We can win off, I think, crit Brave Bird into Recover, into an early Wake. Actually, no, they should just Brave Bird me here, right? So even, like, Brave Bird Ice Beam probably is enough to just win the game for them. If I had actually gone for Recover there, maybe we had a shot. But I'd take a 3-turn sleep anyway. Okay. Yeah, that game really sold me on just, like, the Gastrodon pivoting with Dialga. I think, like, what my opponent did really well here was give Gastrodon defensive boosts, right? Like, via Max Steel Spike. Like, I just had no way to damage it at any point in the game. And basically, it meant that I had a really narrow win condition against it in the late game. So Eldegoss was the solution against it. I didn't love Eldegoss in the matchup since I didn't think it was super valuable into Ho-Oh nor Dialga, but given that it was a bulky Dialga with Trick Room, Eldegoss would have been like the clear adjustment. But sometimes in best of one, you're just not going to bring the absolute best Pokemon because you don't expect certain things. And yeah, I think here just wasn't expecting a super slow Dialga with Trick Room. And like if you look at it, Eldegoss alone doesn't really help against Dialga because it doesn't produce like any offense against it, right? And if I'm bringing Eldegoss, it means I'm dropping something else. I think the right path is probably dropping Grimmsnarl on this one because the lagging tail with Trick isn't really that important. So if we drop Grim, like it's Eldegoss, Solgaleo, Ho-Oh plus Mamo, but to be honest, it's still a really difficult matchup because we're relying on purely physical damage other than Leaf Storm from Eldegoss. So you know, that's one of the things that I think our opponent was to be able to take advantage of. They recognize that, hey, we're using primarily physical attackers here, so boosting your defense is a really, really smart method. Not only to do damage with Max Steel Spike, but to, you know, obviously make yourself bulkier in the long run and make sure that I just can't KO like the Gastrodon at all. So yeah, they made Gastrodon look really strong there, and I think they played a super, super good game there. So yep, the adjustment would be Eldegoss over Grim, but you know, in a best of one, I don't really regret bringing Grim because I think there's a lot of value it could contribute without knowing my opponent's sets. But yeah, Ho-Oh Dialga Gastro looked really, really good for my opponent there. So kudos, but let's look for another. Third game of the day here, and it's a Solgaleo team, but they have Zamazenta, Tyranitar, Tornadus, Incineroar, and Tapu Fini. Talk about interesting restricted pairs recently. Wow. Okay. So they're probably going to be Brutal Swing, Policy Solg. Could be Scarf T-Tar with Brutal Swing. Coaching Zamazenta. I mean, I find Ho-Oh really valuable here, but like them having Max Lightning or Rockfall on the Solg is really likely here. Foul Play is interesting on Grim, actually. Like, do I ever really bring Eldegoss here? It's interesting because if I can put the Solgaleo to sleep with the sleep powder. They're obviously going to be in really bad shape. Just don't want to rely on it. So, like, I think Grim, Urshifu, Hole, Solgaleo might be a little bit more consistent for us. Grim, Ho-Oh, Solgaleo, Urshifu. Okay, let's go for it. I don't know. Like, I don't think Eldegoss is bad. But my main concern is, like, I'm basically bringing it solely to Sleep Powder Solgaleo, and they have a Tapu Fini on their team, right? So if you bring Fini, then you just stop Eldegoss from accomplishing pretty much anything against Solgaleo. It's Tornadus and Solg, I believe. Okay. So this is not a bad position. I mean, turn 1 I can angle for Trick onto the Solgaleo. I want to be a little bit careful about Max Rockfall here, so I'm down to Trick and then switch out into my Solgaleo. Basically, with Ho-Oh here, like, Ho-Oh's really good into my opponent's team, right? Their restricted combination is Zacian and... not Zacian. Zamazenta and Solgaleo. But my opponent has ways to just get a one-hit knockout onto Ho-Oh immediately. Something like Tailwind Rockfall, for example. You don't even need a Tailwind here, so it's just faster. Since we're not... yeah. Like, if you are just max speed... Solgaleo, this Ho obviously does not have that much speed investment. So you could just go for Brutal Swing into Rockfall or Lightning onto Ho-Oh here. Tailwind. And the thing is, it's like, if I trade Grimmsnarl to get the lagging tail onto Solgaleo, it is so worth it for me, in my opinion. I guess the problem, though, is that they would get a defense boost. Meh. Okay, no Dynamax, which I think is clever. So I assume it's just Sunsteel Strike going out into Grim right now. Well, I guess we'll have to see. Lagging Tail, there's Policy. Yeah, that's a nice play. That's a really nice play, because I obviously could have just gone for Sacred Fire. Makes me wonder then, like, who's their Dynamax option here? Because I think it's a little bit risky to not max there in front of a Ho-Oh. But I guess it's fine. Free switching into my Ho-Oh now. So what are they going to have in the back? Zamazenta? One would think. I wonder if they brought T-Tar. That'd be really cool. I think here I'm down to protects, kind of scout out for what they want to do, see if maybe they try to Dynamax here. Yeah, I'm down for protect and wild charge this turn. Because the thing is, you could still Dynamax Solgaleo even with the lagging tail if you have a rock type attack on it. But yeah, that last turn was really nice by my opponent. Like, in front of a Ho-Oh, just expecting me to most likely play passively there because I don't know the Solgaleo moveset. I think is really smart. And sets me back a decent amount, especially because they didn't Dynamax. Like, okay, they don't Dynamax once again. That's interesting. Protect. Yep. They actually just go for a Blind Hurricane onto us. Wild Charge onto Tornadus. You're Focus Sashed. That's fine. If anything, it's like better for them to have Sash here because it denies them a free switching immediately. Flare Blitz. Ooh, I didn't see that coming. I don't think that's actually too bad for us, though. Like, what are they going to have in the back? Zamazenta is 1? There's still 2 turns of Tailwind left. It's just been 2 turns of Solgaleo, like, in front of Ho-Oh, and they just haven't really, like, attacked it either time. Like, what, set are you actually running here? Okay. I'm down to Dynamax here. Flare to one-shot Solgaleo, finally. And Sunsteel Strike into Tornadus. It's just frustrating, because I've had this Ho out in front of the Solgaleo, and, like, both times I played really passively, but I'm okay with that because I am also stalling out my opponent's Tailwind right now, and after this turn, there's only going to be 1 more turn left. Tornadus here shouldn't be able to knock out my Solgaleo, so you would expect Hurricane onto Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh one-shots the Solgaleo, and then Solgaleo also KOs their Tornadus, so then we go up 3-2, with them having 1 more turn of Tailwind and an extra turn of Dynamax. They have Heat Wave as well. Wow. Hurricane, Heat Wave, Tailwind, and maybe Brutal Swing? That would be fascinating if that were the case. But we actually survived thanks to the Assault Vest there, which is quite clutch. The other good thing is, like, Tailwind will expire not this turn, but the subsequent turn. But that's just enough for me because I've got this Urshifu waiting in the back, right? I have to say, though, it's definitely been an interesting game. Didn't expect Flare Blitz on the Solgaleo, nor the Heat Wave on Tornadus. Neither of those are, like, super obscure attacks, but they're not exactly common on either these days either. There's so many moves that both Pokemon want to run. Okay, there's Fini for one slot. You're probably not going to Dynamax. Is that Tyranitar? Ooh, so they didn't bring Zamazenta. Okay. I feel okay about the position, though, because I've got Urshifu in the back. Man, do I ever just attack with Ho-Oh here and just Airstream into Tapu Fini? I've just protected Ho so much in front of my opponent. But the only thing I'm worried about here is what, Dragon Dance Tyranitar? And if they have that, then so be it. So I'm going to Max Guard, and we're going to... Do I want to Sunsteel Strike T-Tar? I'm actually more interested in Wild Charge onto Fini. I don't think I get an attack off here anyway, but if I Wild Charge into Fini, then we just bring out Urshifu, Max Airstream, Fini, Close Combat, T-Tar. And they're Dynamaxing here, which I would argue is a good thing to see. Could Max Darkness into Solgaleo to drop my special defense, and then if Fini's offensive, it's pretty interesting. I guess my other question is whether or not Life Orb Max Airstream one-shots Tapu Fini. I kind of expect it to be honest. There's Max Guard. Rockfall into the guard. Good, but Fini's probably KOing us here. Icy Wind is risky because you could miss that. But no miss. I also wonder, like, how much more HP we needed to survive that. Because it's Assault Vest and we resist it. Okay, sand damage, no more Tailwind, Scarf Urshifu's time. I guess the other question is like the item I expect here on either Pokemon. And whether or not Fini has Protect. Normally if you have Icy Wind, I would assume Choice Scarf. Or not Choice Scarf, sorry, Assault Vest. I'm just going to Close Combat and Airstream here, I think. I'm not going to try to make any reads. No Protect from either Mon. Nice. That's a one-hit KO. Beautiful. Yeah, because I was thinking like we could one-shot either Pokemon here, barring like Focus Sash on T-Tar or Ultra Mega Bulky Tapu Fini. But now we get the Life Orb Bear. I mean, now we should just win because Fini's never winning against Ho-Oh. They actually were bulky enough to survive that. So if T-Tar had actually just gone for Max Guard there, they would have won the game if they had Moonblasted the Urshifu. I guess the question is whether or not a Moonblast KOs if you're like Assault Vest with not much offense. So let's see. Yeah, I would have KO'd. So basically, if my opponent had just gone for Max Guard there, they would have won the game. My way around that then is targeting the Tapu Fini and like doubling up into it. This is basically whoever calls correctly on whether or not, you know, the Protect is going to come out. And yeah, if you get it correct, you win. And so... You know, I was thinking, like, the reason I went for my play there was because I thought, like, we could even just one-shot the Tapu Fini there, but it clearly is pretty defensive. I mean, Tapu Fini in general is a pretty defensive Pokemon. We just Brave Bird here, and that always guarantees the KO. But, yeah, if I had, like, gotten into my head and read into Tyranitar Max Guarding there, which I think is a very possible play, right? Like, there's... It's hard to feel confident one way or the other in that position, but... Funny enough, like by being confident or thinking that Ho would get the one-hit knockout onto Tapu Fini, that actually helped me a little bit more, right? Because I didn't know what the damage roll there would be necessarily. I mean, Ho is just not exactly a very common Pokemon, and I just haven't had like Ho versus Tapu Fini interactions very frequently before. So I was like, okay, we're adamant, we're 236 attack EVs. Like I would think it's enough to maybe get a one-hit knockout. I actually want to pull the damage calc and learn that real quick because yeah, I want to see if my intuition was even remotely correct. Like if they are max HP but no defense EVs, like can we ever get a KO from the range that they were at? Probably not, to be honest, given how little we did there, but let's see. So pulling up the damage calc here, minimum I do 73.4 and maximum 86.4 against Tapu Fini with max HP, no defense investment, and I would expect Finis to have some defense investment as well. So it's kind of close, right? I mean, like 86.4 on the higher end, but they didn't have enough chip damage, I think, for us to actually secure the knockout from the range they were at. But wasn't completely, you know, off base there. Because they had taken just the slightest amount of chip damage from the sand, obviously. But yeah, still obviously not enough there. So... Maybe not the best assumption on my end there. I mean, Tyranitar is also a Pokemon that's just like not very common in the format, and I didn't really know what like they would want to do in that position. Basically, like another way we could win the game is actually, so what I was worried about there is I could double up into Tapu Fini, right? Especially since Close Combat did just one-shot the Tyranitar. What I could do is just Close Combat Max Airstream to Tapu Fini, especially because, like I mentioned, I saw Icy Wind, so I was thinking maybe it'd be Assault Vest. Could be a Bulky Berry as well. But then if Close Combat Airstream gets the KO, then Tyranitar shouldn't be able to actually retaliate back and knock out Urshifu, even at -1 defense. So what that would cover for is basically saying, okay, well, if you go for the Max Guard on Tyranitar, the Close Combat Airstream KOs the Tapu Fini, and then I just win the game from there. The scary thing is that Fini actually had Protect, but honestly, like, Protect is such a rare play on Tapu Fini there. And so, yeah, like, instead of splitting my damage the way I did, I could have doubled up on a Fini with Close Combat because, like, the odds of it having Protect are relatively slim. And then the thing is, yeah, if we get the knockout onto that, it covers for Tyranitar going for the Max Guard, right? And then Tyranitar, of course, could target the Urshifu, but I'm just not sure what attack you'd have that would actually get a one-hit knockout onto us. Because normally Tyranitars run, like, you know, Rock Slide, Dark-type attack, maybe a Fighting-type attack, and then Protect. None of those can really KO the Urshifu there, right? And so even though we won the game, I actually think the better play was to have doubled up onto Tapu Fini there. Although, I guess, like, I don't know, Fini... I don't think Fini's ever surviving Close Combat and Max Airstream there from Life Orb HO-OH. So, yeah, I think Close Combat into Fini was a little bit better there. But, yeah. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. So thank you so much as always for watching. I really enjoyed using this team. I think it's just so different from anything we featured. But I think, yeah, that second game, I'm definitely going to be thinking a bit more on how I could have played better. But, you know, Eldegoss, like I mentioned, would have been the solution against that Gastrodon. But, yeah, it just highlights that when you use the team that has two restricteds that, you know, attack on the same spectrum, whether it be physical or special, your opponents can, like, take advantage of that. And I think my second opponent did a really good job of that today. So, yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.